This video will cover the topic, Quotient of Two Functions, Basic. Let's start out by looking at an example problem. We are given f of x equals the quantity 1 plus x times the quantity 2 plus x, and g of x equals 2 plus x. And we are asked to find f divided by g of 4, or in other words, the quotient f divided by g when x equals 4.
What exactly does quotient mean?
Great question. The quotient is the result obtained by dividing one quantity by another. In this case, we are asked to find the quotient of two functions. So in order to find the quotient of two functions, we need to divide one function by the other function. And looking at our problem, we can see that we need to divide f of x by g of x. Given this information, we can rewrite our equation as f of x divided by g of x. We are given the equations for f of x and g of x, so let's substitute them into our equation. The result is f of x, which equals the quantity 1 plus x times the quantity 2 plus x, divided by g of x, which equals 2 plus x. So now we have found the quotient f divided by g. But remember, we were asked to find the quotient f divided by g when x equals 4. So let's substitute 4 into our equation. The result, after substituting 4 in for x, is the quantity 1 plus 4 times the quantity 2 plus 4 divided by the quantity 2 plus 4. Following the order of operations, we perform the operations inside the parentheses first. The quantity 1 plus 4 equals 5, the quantity 2 plus 4 equals 6, and once again the quantity 2 plus 4 equals 6. 5 times 6 equals 30, divided by 6 equals 5. After calculations, we have found that the quotient f divided by g of 4 equals 5. Now let's take a look at the second part of our problem. Find all x values not in the domain.
What does it mean when it says domain?
That's a great question. The domain is all the inputs or x values that when plugged in are defined. So in other words, our domain is all the x values that, when plugged in, give us a real output.
Okay, so that's when a function is defined. But when is a function undefined?
A function is undefined anytime we cannot calculate the output, such as when the denominator is equal to 0. Recall that f of x divided by g of x equals the quantity 1 plus x times the quantity 2 plus x divided by the quantity 2 plus x. The numerator is the top portion of our fraction, and the denominator is the bottom portion of our fraction. In order to find the x values that are not in the domain, we set our denominator equal to 0. 2 plus x is our denominator, so let's set that equal to 0. To solve for x, we subtract 2 from both sides. The result after subtracting 2 from both sides is x equals negative 2. This means that the value x equals negative 2 is not in the domain.
So let me see if I have this straight. First, we can rewrite f over g of x as f of x divided by g of x. Then we substitute the corresponding equations in for f of x and g of x. Finally, we substitute in our given x value and calculate the answer. Then to find any point that is not in the function's domain, we can set our denominator equal to 0 and solve.
That's correct. Awesome job.